As humans, each of us has an innate need to connect with other people and to be part of something bigger than ourselves. But today's remote, siloed workplaces overwhelm us with technology and leave us feeling isolated and disconnected. We are experiencing a fundamental crisis of belonging. N-Border helps companies like yours tap into the power of belonging and create better human connections across the entire employee journey. From onboarding to learning and development, performance management, organizational change, and every moment and milestone along the way, our employee communication and workflow platform drives connection and boost productivity, teamwork, engagement, and retention. Set up a custom tour of the N-Border Human Connection platform today by visiting bit.ly/all uppercase ENBTC-2023. Welcome to the Work Trends podcast from Talent Culture. I'm your host, Megan Mbiro. Every week, I interview interesting people who are reimagining work. And be sure to check out our Work Trends Twitter chat events calendar located at talentculture.com on the podcast page. Welcome, everyone, to the Talent Culture Work Trends podcast. I'm your host, Megan Mbiro, and today we have a very special guest who will talk to us about talent retention and how you can train and retain your team for long-term success. Today's workplace is more volatile than ever. Competition for top talent is fierce, and it's becoming increasingly difficult to keep your team engaged and motivated. To help you stay ahead of the game, our guest today is an expert in talent retention. He will discuss the different strategies and techniques you can use to help keep your team members engaged and motivated in the long term. Our guest today is from Franklin Covey, the world's most trusted leadership company. They are known around the world for helping organizations build a winning culture and nurture high-performing teams. We are very privileged to have Paul Walker, Franklin Covey's CEO, joining us on the show today. Driven by learning, leadership, culture, and transformation, Paul Walker oversees more than 1,200 employees in 160 countries. A graduate of Brigham Young University, he lives in the Salt Lake City area with his wife and 4 children. Happy to discuss this with you, Paul. And listen, welcome. We're excited you're here.
Megan, thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to be here as well.
And you are where today?
I'm in my office in Salt Lake City, Utah, where we've had a ton of snow. It's beautiful out there.
It is so gorgeous. I love Salt Lake City. So we're so glad you're here. And I'm glad you're, in a place that doesn't have snow immediately around you to do this podcast. So there you go. So listen, let's dive right into it. What makes learning and development an integral part of retention?
That's a great question. I appreciate that you were really assumptive there in the question that it is an integral part of retention. And we see that in our clients and in the research that we've done. I would point to maybe 3 things, and I'll share a couple of stats as well. But the first is people feel valued because they're invested in and they feel invested in. And that's a major, the research points to, more valued I feel, the more I'm likely to stay. In fact, we have a statement that we teach in one of our leadership programs where we say, wouldn't it be great if everybody in your company could say, I feel like I'm a valued member of a winning team doing meaningful work in an environment of trust. And so, that point of feeling valued, I think that learning and development certainly does that. Second area, it helps employees do better, perform better. We want to come to work every day and do our best work. And I know that doing my best work means that I have the capabilities and the skills that I need. And if I don't have them, I feel like my employer's helping me acquire those. And that's going to help me do better today, but it also is going to position me to do maybe something that I'm excited about in the future as well. And so again, back to this, I feel invested in, I feel valued, I'm going to more easily and readily be retained. And I think that all leads to just a more engaged workforce. SHRM did a study not that long ago where they said that employees are 76% more likely to stay with a company that has a dedicated process around ongoing growth and learning opportunities for their employees. Deloitte, similar study, their studies show that organizations with learning cultures, they have 30 to 50% higher retention rates. So everything kind of points to this. You get more engagement. People feel more valued as they're invested in, and learning is a big part of that investment.
And you said two words that have really stuck with me. I feel. Those words to me resound, and so many people out there in the work trends community, I think, are struggling with this idea of retention. And I've said it before, and if you're out there and taking notes, you may even know the date I said this, but my gosh, we're talking about talent retention, and you have to feel it. And so next question for you is, what do employees want from a good learning and development program? I mean, what do they really want?
We think they really want, there's probably more than this, but there are 4 things that we see over and over again. And these resonate with me because this is what I would want too. 1, I want something that's going to be easy, not onerous. I'm a whole person. I have lots of roles I play in life. One of those is as employee and worker, but I've got other things too that are important to me. And so help me make sure that the time I do invest in my work role, that I can get the most out of it. And the part of that that's learning, help me do that in a way that is easy to access, easy to intake. That's the first one. The second that's really related closely to that is that it can fit and flow into my work week. Like it helped me fit it into the seams of what I'm already doing. That's better than going away for days and days at a time where then I've got to come back and catch up on work. So easy in that it fits into the seams and the cracks of my work day, my work week, my work month. Another big area is it needs to be relevant. Present opportunities for me and help me learn the things that will help me on my job. And I mentioned this in the previous question you asked. It'll help me in my job today, but are also going to set me up for that job I might want in the future or that experience I might want in the future. So make sure it's relevant. And, then the fourth, ultimately, I want it to actually work. The worst feeling is to sit through something where you're like, this wasn't helpful. It wasn't applicable. I don't really think it's going to work, right? But the inverse of that is so powerful. I see how this is going to help me not just learn something new, but I'm going to come away thinking differently. My behavior is going to change. This is immediately applicable. So useful, fits in to my work day, my work week. I see it as useful, and it's really relevant to where I am today and where I'm trying to go in the future. I would say those are the things we hear over and over from the learners that we're helping address.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have to say one thing about you. Thanks for keeping it humble, because I think what you're saying, we're all feeling, by the way, which is kind of cool. Let's talk a little bit about strong learning cultures. I mean, all right, so I'm a little jaded, right? I'm like, oh, everyone's thinking about retention today, but what about those out there, and I know you're there, who want to know about the benefits beyond the obvious retention KPI? Talk to us about the bigger picture here.
I'm glad you asked that. I think it's an interesting, so I've been in this industry for about 23 years. And it's interesting, what I've seen for all 23 of the years I've been here is that oftentimes those who are responsible for learning and creating a learning culture run into a bit of a buzzsaw sometimes as they go in and try to advocate for that. And the people who are on the other side of the table, who are helping run the business as well, and who are making some of the budgetary and strategic decisions, they don't necessarily see how learning fits with what they're trying to get done strategically. And so I think that's an opportunity that we all continue to have, which is to make sure that the learning we're advocating for isn't just for retention or isn't just to check some of these boxes that might feel a little bit soft sometimes, but are actually seen as strategically crucial to the organization's performance. And we know, those of us, if you're tuning into this podcast, I assume we're all singing from the same sheet of music, and we really do feel this way, that it does go far beyond retention only, as important as retention is. So go the quality and the capabilities of our people, so go the quality of our result, right? Those who can field the best team and then help enable that team to get better and better produce fundamentally better results than those that can't. A couple of statistics. This came from that similar Deloitte study that 92% of companies who deploy learning in a very sophisticated, maybe more intentional way, 92% of them develop more novel products and processes. 52% of those organizations are measurably more productive than those who don't. 56% are likely to be first to market with their products and services, and 17% are more profitable than their peers. And so I think we need to talk that language, and those things are all very true, and we know that. And so it does go along far beyond retention. The other thing I would say is what we see the best organizations do is they figured out how to take the learning culture that those of us that are here are passionate about, and they've ignited that same passion in their leaders. And the leaders throughout the organization see the development of their people as one of the key leadership expectations put upon them, that they want to be involved in making sure that their own people are developed. It's not just something that HR or L&D is responsible for.
Well, absolutely. And thanks for taking the macro look at it, because I think it helps people see that there is something beyond just this one KPI, that there is data to support this idea that there's value here. Depending on what role you have in an organization, you're going to be looking at it differently. Let's be honest. But, let's talk a little bit about customization, because that's a word I hear a lot of in this community. Why is it important to customize training programs to fit your individual company and culture?
I think just touching back on a few of the things that I've shared, I think that every company that I've ever been associated with or worked with has a distinct culture. And there's think of that culture as a wave running through the organization. I'm not a surfer. I have surfed once or twice, and you would know if you saw me, I am not a surfer. But it strikes me that those who are good at surfing, they're good at catching a wave. And once you catch the wave, the energy and the momentum that wave carries propels that surfer all the way until the wave finally dissipates at the shore. And your culture is like that. It's a wave running through the organization. And the degree to which learning can be tailored, customized, and put onto those waves that are already running through the organization, there's just a greater likelihood that those learning initiatives are not going to be one and done. They're going to stay, they're going to stick, they're going to be embraced because they're attached to the cultural norms and the outcomes the organization is trying to achieve. And so where are those waves running through the organization that we can attach learning to? And that does require some customization and some tailoring. And we definitely see that as an important thing. And it is something we all talk about, right? We want them to feel personalized to me, connected to my work, like it's on the topics that I need to develop, and it's attached to the things that I'm responsible for getting done in my job.
Paul, I'm stuck on the waves. I think it's super cool. Just saying. How cool is it to visualize? If you're out there in the Work Trends community, I want to hear from you. What's it like? Are you visualizing those waves? Because I think that's very powerful when you put it into that kind of a descriptor, or you can visualize that. That's culture, And
Megan, the opposite of that, for the opposite visualization is pushing a rope. So imagine the rope we all used to use for tug of war during gym class in elementary school. And we'd, once a year, you'd get together for the big tug of war. And that rope, if you laid it out on the gym floor and you tried to push from one end, you can't actually move the rope. It just bunches up on itself. And so the metaphor is the visual is kind of like catch the waves running through your organization versus trying to push the rope. And I think sometimes we show up as learning leaders with our agenda trying to push our rope as opposed to getting our surfboard and getting on the wave that's already running through the organization.
Interesting. I love it. So listen, it's going to get a little bit more personal for you, Paul, because I want you to tell us how Franklin Covey helps companies, helps people deliver on all these promises, right, of effective and lasting training and development programs that come along with that.
Well, of course, I'm grateful for that question. So thank you for that. First, I would say what we're trying to do at Franklin Covey, and we have been, we've been around for about 40 years. And of course, we're the company that brought the world the 7 habits of highly effective people and the 4 disciplines of execution and the speed of trust and the paper planner that our parents used back in the day, right? And of course, we're not in the paper planner business anymore, but that's part of our heritage. At the root level, we are helping organizations achieve collective action on the most important areas in which they need to achieve that action. We're helping organizations with developing leaders at all levels of the organization. We're helping instill habits of effectiveness inside every individual. We're helping them address culture to make sure that those cultures really are the places where people can say, I feel like a valued member of a winning team doing meaningful work in an environment of trust. And the 4th area we're helping with is around execution. It's great if you can create the best feeling environment where leaders do do a good job of engaging their people, and people come in every day wanting to do their best. But if you can't pull all that together and marshal the energy in the direction the organization needs to go and get the right things done, it doesn't matter. We assemble content and solutions and technology to help drive that at scale across organizations. And at our core, that's what we do. We're about creating mindset shifts that underneath those mindset shifts, people can then adopt the right behaviors and consistently apply those behaviors to what they're doing and support all that with the right sets of skills and tools. And so it's a fun place to be. It's a great place to be right now. There's a big need for it. You all know that as you're out there working on this in your own companies. And so that's what we're up to.
Final and juicy question for you. Where does technology come into play with training, and how can we leverage it to create efficiencies and success for everybody?
The world has changed a lot in the last few years, and technology is playing a central role in learning. It was the next area to be digitally disrupted, and it has been. The pandemic brought some of that on, but the trend was already there. Technology is fantastic because it's helping us all play the role of increased scalability. It's great if we can get a person to think and do differently, but that's insufficient. We need the entire organization to think and do differently, and technology is allowing for that scale. I think the sweet spot for technology, though, is at the intersection of impact and scale. We see lots of organizations default to the scalability of technology. We can make all of this content available to people. They can access it whenever they want. They can get access to 30,000 different topics if they want. But I'm not sure that access is the same thing as impact. And so that's the one thought or watch out I would give is to carefully balance access with impact. Use technology as a way to get the water to the end of the row, but make sure the water you're getting to the end of the row is really the right water to the right people on the right skills, the right capabilities that are going to make the biggest difference to the organization. But no question, technology is vitally important, and we're grateful that it's providing the scale that it is.
Paul Walker, thanks for keeping it human and for keeping it smart with us today.
Thanks, Megan. It's great to be with you.
Thanks for listening to the Work Trends Podcast, your favorite source for all that's new and exciting in the world of work. If you love what we do here, make sure to share our podcast with your friends and, well, the world at large. And don't forget, tune in for our very next episode. I'll catch up with you next time. Thanks to listening to Work Trends from Talent Culture. Join us every Wednesday at 1:30 p.m. Eastern for a live Twitter chat with our podcast guest. To learn more about guests featured on today's show, visit the show notes for this episode at talentculture.com and help us spread the word. Subscribe to Work Trends wherever you listen to podcasts. Leave us a rating, review in iTunes. Share Work Trends with your coworkers, your friends. Look forward to it. See you next time.